One of the things I'm most proud of is our mental health department, where we provide low-cost counseling to special needs individuals and their families. During times like this is something that everyone can use. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday in Crazyland.
We have so much fun here.
Yeah,
it's just
we're being a little too zany today.
Too zany. Well, I mean, can you blame us? It's COVID. We've been locked in.
Exactly.
You're all the social activities.
I know, and I've had a headache / migraine since I've been sick. It started when I got sick, and I was telling somebody today that when you have a headache, it almost feels like when you have a migraine that just goes on and on and on, it almost feels like you have brain damage. Because I feel like I can't really, I don't know what I'm going to say today. So you're going to get a version of me.
And I'm taking Benadryl, so we're
oh
good.
my God.
We're
a mess. We're a couple of crazies.
So, but it's allergies, even though it's winter,
it is allergy
it's
season.
Weird. It's allergy season. So anyway, the other part of our show today, other than our zaniness, is that we want to introduce you to one of the therapists here at the center. She and her family have really been so supportive.
Absolutely. I've known Megan since she was just a kid. And she and I used to volunteer together at Surfers Healing for many years. And she's just an amazing girl, one of the smartest kids I've ever met in my life. And
multi-talented.
Very, very multi-talented, because every year Eddie creates this extraordinary concept for his birthday cake. And usually it's from a picture that looks like nobody could create this. And Megan has made these cakes for him every year.
Artist.
And every year he thinks about what cake that his Auntie Megan is going to make for him. And she really has become part of our family here at the Ed Asner Family Center. And let's bring Megan on and introduce her to our community.
Hi.
Hey, Megan. Hi.
I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. I just want to let everybody know that Megan has joined us in the mental health department. She is a MFT trainee, meaning that she's in her master's program, and she's under my supervision. So we have brought her on a few weeks ago, and she's just doing an amazing job here. She also has a background in behavior intervention. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and your classes and things like that?
Yeah. So like Navah said, I've been volunteering in the autism community since I was really little, and I just fell in love with the community and the people and the support that's all around it. And while I was doing my program, I became a behavioral therapist for kids on the spectrum, and I really enjoyed working with them hands-on and with the families. But I wanted to take a deeper dive into the mental health side. So I kind of have found my passion working with the parents of kids on the spectrum, just giving a whole mental health picture to the whole family. So yeah, and that's where I am.
Which really is part of our whole mission statement, where we are supporting the entire special needs family, not just the individual who might have special needs. Megan is also just so fun and lighthearted and
creative.
Very, very creative. She's an incredible artist. And you see that with her cakes. I was mentioning how Eddie gets so excited, and every year he just plans his whole entire year based on the cake you're going to make him. But
the other thing too, Megan, that I want to say is that you talk about getting to know the families and children from a behavioral perspective. And I started off like that as well. But I also really wanted to address the emotional pieces that behavior doesn't always dive into. Behavior intervention wants to know what's happening before the behavior, what are the it just it changes the way that we work as clinicians about, is there an emotion first? What's happening in the thoughts?
A trigger.
Yeah.
Like
an
these,
emotional trigger.
fluorescent lights that trigger me.
For migraines.
Yeah, I just, not to discredit anything in the ABA field, but I found just being in these homes with these families and watching the kids on the spectrum interact with their parents that they just weren't getting like the mental health side of it, and they were addressing the issues that were coming before the behavior, but they weren't addressing what was creating the behavior. Like if a kid is having a behavior at the dinner table, but the family won't sit down and have dinner with them, why?
Yeah. Why?
So I wanted to take a deeper dive and just help the family as a whole.
Yes. And that is the goal. That is the goal, is to find out, because sometimes the issues and the behaviors that the child is having is modeled from the contention between the parents. And, that's what I think it's so important, that it's not just about enrichments or therapies for the child, but it's also taking the time to get support and help and self-care for yourself. And I say this all the time, we as special needs parents, we have to take care of ourselves because we'll fall apart. We're no good. I wanted to bring up a point that Chrisa and I were talking about. There's so many parents who are writing about how overwhelmed they are. They're working from home. They're trying to keep the kids on home learning.
Yep.
And in a family like ours, where we have multiple kids, one guy needs more time than the other. And it's very overwhelming for parents. And we were just talking about, and I don't know if you saw this in the news, Dr. Berman, who was on this incredible show, Berman and Berman. Her son was doing something that so many of our kids are doing, which is, he's doing online learning all day long. He's totally fried brain, his brain is fried from all this Zooming. So by the time he gets to the end of the day, he just wants to play video games and zone out. And I know my own son does that. And sometimes as a parent, you are so tired. It's the end of the day. You've been working all day. Producer, you got to stop doing that.
Okay. We can't see our lovely Megan.
And so by the end of the day, you're just, you're ready to zonk out yourself, and you can't keep checking on your child. And her son met some weirdo on Snapchat. He talked him into meeting him outside. The parents didn't even know he left the house. And he gave him some drug that was laced with fentanyl, and he died. 16-year-old beautiful boy. So what we're seeing is, that no matter how busy we are, no matter how much we're trying to juggle all these balls in the air, and I know about juggling balls in the air, we have to understand that these kids, and especially there's so many of our kids who are on the spectrum, who are really hyper focused on video games and all the freedom that they have at night. And to me, it's like, now I have another thing I have to talk about. And I think we as parents really have to open up the conversation with the video games, because I know in my own, in Matt and I's experience, some of these kids are playing video games until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then struggling to stay awake the next day, especially when you're doing your homework from your bed. So it's this whole nether realm of the dark part of social media that's entering kids who are all having this extra time and really being taken advantage of. Yeah. And I mean, I just wanted to put it out there because I read this article, and it impacted me so heavily that this mom who thought everything was perfect, her son was a straight A student. He was just very, very lively and no problems, no social or mental health warning signs. And then, one day she wakes up, she wakes up to go wake her son up, and he had passed away. So,
and it's a new kind of threat. It's interesting because in the old days, pre-social media and all of those Facebook and TikTok and all that
Yeah.
other stuff, it was like if you lock your door, you felt secure in your
Mhm.
home. You could put your alarm on or whatever. And then parents can go to sleep and feel secure. Their kids are tucked nicely in their beds. But now there's it comes into your home.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's literally,
It could be a potential.
And females on the spectrum are even more vulnerable, because I've heard so many horror stories of our female community who are on social media.
Mhm.
They're being talked into doing things that they don't want to do, and maybe they have had this kind of ABA training in the past where they want to please people. There's a connection between that with ABA training.
Mhm.
And so to me, it's like this really needs to come out. I know that one of the things we're so excited for Megan to do is create support groups and create some really
Well, let's ask Megan. I really want you to talk a little bit about your history and your passion as you move into more of the mental health licensing experience. You know, you're getting a lot of experience here, but what do you feel passionate about in helping others?
One of the biggest things that I want to help and I'm excited to help about is providing like a safe space for children, or not children, even adolescents, kids, children's, young adults on the spectrum, to have a safe place to talk about and learn about personal relationships.
Yeah.
And their sexuality and how to approach relationships in a safe way, and what the proper way to do it is, and find those connections that they so longing to want to have.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's exactly, you know, we've talked about bringing Megan on to our program called the Dating Spectrum.
Absolutely.
Which we're hoping to debut in the spring, and to really bring about, you know, for our young adults, more of that connection, how to date, how to approach others in social media, how to limit social media if there's an issue. Also, you know, about puberty, because you know, as you turn 18, obviously there's a lot of things that are still emerging, and like personal hygiene and self-care and all those other things as a young person that you need if you want to get out in the world and increase your social circles, and not only just dating, but friends. So all of these things that we're about to embark on can be really helpful. That's why I think the class is fantastic. We can't wait. We're developing it, you know, and can't wait to launch it.
Yeah.
Megan's going to be a part of that. Nava's going to be a part of that. And so is Jeff, another one of our therapists. But what's important too is to transfer all of these skills out into the real world, right? And not just social media. I mean, we're hoping that maybe in April there might be possibility to do some type of interaction, social interaction.
We can hope. But I think I think the
here.
wonderful thing about Megan is that there's so many, she has been such a great support for so many different age groups. So it would be a wonderful, I think that the kind of like a sexual awareness class is separate from the dating spectrum, which is 18 and over.
Yeah.
But just to be able to have a safe place to talk about things that a lot of times you don't want to talk about, or you're embarrassed to talk about with your parents.
For sure.
So that's really important. And I think Megan she really makes kids, and I call everyone kids, feel comfortable and easy to talk to, and just very down to earth. And I think that's really the mark of a great therapist, for sure.
I just think it's so important. I know you said talking about like to kids about personal hygiene and self-awareness of their body. And I think it's just so important to open that discussion that shouldn't be taboo to talk about puberty and what you're going through, because that brings on so many anxieties behind like those topics. And I just want have a safe space for people to learn all about that and be able to ask the questions that they don't want to ask their parents.
Yes. And having said that, tonight at 4:00, you have to RSVP. We're debuting, or we're kickstarting again, our LGBTQIA support group. I don't want to call it support group, but maybe just like, you know, a gathering.
Well, it is supportive, because I think a lot of
community
times,
support.
And this is what a lot of our participants have said, is that they feel comfortable talking about things that maybe they haven't even been able to talk about with their close family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a supportive nature in it. There is a therapist who is Chrisa.
Yes,
There is Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Freinas is a BCBA, and she identifies as a lesbian. And so she was also participating in the support group. We have a couple other participants, but it has to be very confidential. And so if anyone's interested, they need to email me at Chrisa@NasnerFamilyCenter.org, and then I would send over a Zoom link. You have to RSVP. I have to talk to you first.
Yeah, because you want to feel safe. You want to feel like nobody's going to tease you or judge you or do anything other than support you and just be there for you. And maybe kids would feel more comfortable speaking to a stranger than they would adults. Their parents in the initial stages. And I think that is very much of a support group kind of feeling.
Yeah,
but it becomes very social.
I mean, I need to read studies on this, and maybe you have, Megan, but I doubt young adults, young teenagers are getting information about sex and sexuality and all that from their parents. I'm sure it's through mostly friend circles, right?
Or watching it on TV or, on
watching
social media, Instagram.
Yeah.
They're not, and then the education,
the wrong messages. There is this whole like phenomenon that my friend Amy Gavrino was talking about with autistic communities getting involved and watching porn and getting kind of like the wrong example and the wrong ideas of what normal sexuality is and normal relationship back and forth, because in their minds all girls should have perfect porn boobs, and stuff like that.
But that's absolutely that's absolutely true, because I have some young individuals in my practice. And so the way for them to get the knowledge is to go to those sites. And it's not, and that's their example. I mean, but in anything, look at social media, films, all throughout history has been sort of debuted to us. Even for me as a kid, all we had were movies and TV, right? And nowadays it's the Hallmark Channel. And in 2 weeks, somebody falls in love, and it becomes this perfect example of everything's perfect and happy, and it's all eye candy, and it's like, oh my God, it's just like
happily ever after, no fighting,
just rainbow kind of life, right? And it's just ridiculous. But I even get pulled into that, going, oh, that's so pretty and sweet. It's really just a sugar overdose, and it's just perfect, happy endings all the time. So
everyone loves a happy ending.
Yes.
But it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. 2 weeks, you get married and you are madly in love.
That happens to some people.
Well, that's true, but not
most.
It's usually a roller coaster.
Yeah. That's usually infatuation, and then they're over it after, unless they're like meeting on some app or something. I don't know.
So,
which is another thing that a lot of kids are finding really like a frustration.
Still the tenders,
but also there. In the pandemic, that is really, there's a huge rise in online dating and all this stuff. So the dating spectrum really is also about getting some realistic tools for our community, so they can go out into that world of dating and dip their toes in and feel like they're not completely all alone in it.
Absolutely. So your passion is really more about sex education and helping people find their way. I mean, through therapy, through talk therapy, it's really just conversations with, a person that creates that safe space and trust. And then you just kind of are on this journey together to see where it goes. And you don't always know what you're going to talk about in therapy. You just show up, and next thing you know, the whole hour just goes by. And I hear that all the time. It's like, what am I going to talk about today? Yeah. Next thing you know, there it is.
Oh, it's time's over. I think the hardest part is the first initial meeting. And, you have all these anxieties, and you have all these expectations.
Well, expectations.
I can't think straight. You know what I'm trying to say? And you build this huge buildup to yourself. And the hardest part, and most people change their mind at the last minute because they're so
It's
afraid
too
of
hard.
the initial jump in. And once you do it, it's such a wonderful feeling of release. You just feel like, oh my gosh, I finally have somebody who is listening. My husband's not listening to me. My kids are driving me crazy. And this person is taking this hour to just sit there and listen to me. And maybe that's all you need. Maybe you just need somebody to listen to, be listened to by.
How was your experience so far?
Sorry.
As a therapist?
It's been amazing. One of the major things I was worried about was filling up a full session of 45 minutes. And you're like you guys said, sometimes you sit down, you do your introductions, and then you're like, wait, where did the 45 minutes go? Can I have another 45 minutes? Like, I want to keep talking. I want to keep hearing what you have to say.
Yeah.
And it's just such a positive give and take between client and therapist. And it's so amazing just to see that process and feel that safe space that sometimes you just need to talk.
Yes, absolutely. And the concern, though, that some people like Navah was describing is the uncertainty. It's like, are you going to put a spell on me? Are you going to do some voodoo magic? Do you have a crystal ball? All of the uncomfortableness. But that is part of the healing process, too, for creating the life you want and getting out of that, experiencing that uncomfortableness, being able to share stuff that you normally wouldn't tell anybody else with somebody you just met that's professionally trained and able to really be present for you. And that is so healing in itself. Sometimes people call and they talk on the phone for 15 minutes and I'm doing a mini assessment and they go, I feel better already. And I'm like, come on in and then you can see how great, but it's not always great. You're uncovering some emotional experiences that are really hard for people in grief, loss, abuse, all sorts of things. It's not always pleasant, but you have the courage to show up for yourself. Yes. That's the important thing.
I think that honestly is the most important thing, is just showing up
for yourself.
And even if it's terrifying, you can't be a whole person in a relationship unless you heal yourself first. And I think it's just a matter of leap of faith.
Absolutely.
I think there's an important part to knowing that therapy is not always easy. And that, as human beings, we're not easy. Our minds are not like simple. And to go deep into that with a therapist and talk about some of your thoughts and how you're doing is so interesting and so, I just want like intimate, I guess.
Yeah.
Uncover this hard side of things, but then to know that there is going to be some sort of light at the end of the tunnel.
And that there's somebody with you on that journey. And, we had, who Shannon Penrod is, and she's a wonderful person, a huge part of the autism community and a bit of a celebrity herself.
Yeah, and very inspirational.
Very inspirational.
Families,
and we were talking about anxiety at the very beginning of the pandemic and how, what Navah described, everyone's at home, everyone's in one room. And early on, she said she noticed that she really needed to get some help and how hard it was for her to do that, but that you're really in your own authentic place to want to get to that next level. You're finding your courage, you're finding your voice. And sometimes it just means that someone's giving you permission to be able to express yourself. Because so often we're busy, we're rushing around, I don't have time, or you got to hurry up. And so you might get 10 minutes with a friend.
Yeah.
But can you imagine a whole hour to be able to just speak how you're feeling and
But I think that is the best gift you can give to your family. If you are the individual who needs help, or if you're the parent who has a special needs child, you're giving back to your entire family unit by supporting the foundation, by supporting the mom, by supporting the dad, giving them the tools to have more patience, especially with kids who are, in the new world and with newly diagnosed parents. I mean, it's like having a 2-year-old who's tantruming sometimes 24 hours a day or not sleeping. And so to have tools and to have that kind of like hour to yourself to be able to get support and feel like you're not alone in this journey, you fall back on that during the hard times. And so I think
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, but to give back to yourself is to give to your family.
So this is the time, and I loved how we had the banner. I've never seen that before, producer. We had the banner across the bottom that said, "How do you talk to Megan? How do you talk to Chrisa? How do you talk to one of our therapists?" Well,
there it is.
There's the banner. It's new, and it's again, it's you can talk to Megan, you can talk to Chrisa, you can talk to one of our other therapists, and we even have a male therapist, which is a big deal because I know I looked for 2 years to find a male therapist for my special needs child. And
Megan, what drew you to wanting to become a clinician?
It's a long, complicated story, but I come from a family of divorce, and I had support when I was younger through that divorce. And then as I grew up, I was always kind of the person that my friends came to and just would spill their guts to, and I would sit there and listen. And I just knew it was something I had to do. I loved that back and forth of support. And I have friends that I go to just vent. And sometimes that's what you need. And I was like, I want to be able to do this for a living. I want to be able to be a person that someone can confide in to help them go through whatever is going on in their life.
I have just a quick story, and I've always wanted to be a therapist. In high school, I was very fascinated by our dreams and like what kind of story, and Carl Jung talked about dream analysis and everything else. And then I always thought of myself, I want to sit on the couch and talk to people all day. So I ended up in the music industry, but I had opportunity to go back to grad school, and reinvent myself. And so it took me like 25, 30 years to actually get to that goal. So it was, a second career for me, but I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else right now. This is like destined for me, So even though it was a goal when I was in high school, I finally got to be able to realize that goal and to, I've been licensed for 20 years now. So
I'm just so interested in the human mind. And funny enough, a group that I thought I wanted to work with, which I think I might in my future, is like violent offenders and inmates, because what drives people to do the things they do is something that interests me.
Like but criminal psychology.
Yeah, but I think that goes with any demographic. What drives you to do the things you do and what you think? So it's just
human behavior. Yeah. How does it, how does it all unravel and
like my obsession with serial killers.
I think we all have that obsession.
No, I don't know. I know a lot of people who either love it or hate it. Well, I mean, Mindhunter was my favorite.
Well, there was another show on Netflix. I think it was about the Night Stalker.
The Night Stalker was amazing.
I can't watch it.
But I mean, my favorite part of all of that is the idea of what does it take to take a perfectly normal child, baby, and from his childhood trauma, turn him into the Jeffrey Dahmers, the BTKs, the Golden State Killer. What does it take in their childhood, and what they go through? And in Mindhunter, you find there is a recipe. There is a recipe, and a lot of them have the same.
Is that on Netflix?
Mindhunter? Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's the best show of all. It's an amazing, amazing show. Well, Megan, we are so happy. On that note of BTK. On that note, I'll be Gone in the Dark. That's another amazing serial killer show. But we're so happy to have you on our team, and you're definitely one of our family since I've known you since you were a tiny little girl.
Thanks for coming on today.
I love your mom, and I love you, and I'm just so proud of you. And it's only the beginning. We're going to create so many amazing programs.
So stay tuned, everybody. We got a lot of stuff coming up, and hopefully in the spring we will be able to debut it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'm so excited.
Me too. Stay safe, Megan. We'll see you soon.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye. See you next Tuesday, everyone. Stay safe.
The last 8 months have been incredibly difficult for everyone. And to have a small business, a nonprofit that depends on the interaction and the physicality of being around people.
Yeah.
It's a huge wall that all of a sudden appeared.
For the kids that are really used to having this social interaction, they're really struggling in the COVID kind of lockdown.
We very quickly adapted, and we created online content and virtual content that we decided at the very beginning that we wanted to make for free.
Chelsea Darnell, she runs Movie Chat. She started it at the very beginning of the pandemic, and it was a way for teens all over to connect with each other and talk about movies. I think it's super fun to have that type of outlet because it gives me a chance to connect with the outside world a little bit, you know.
We have kids who are able to have something to look forward to every week and really have this social interaction online with their social club, and that's been really one of our most successful things during this time.
I think that, you know, what I see there is just a great place for people to get support and parents to get some breaks, or caretakers to get a little break.
Month after month, one of the things the parents were really seeing is some regression in kids, depression, the social in-person interaction can't be compared to. So we did make the decision to totally outfit the center with COVID compliant plexiglass. And that's one of the things that we fundraise for. I mean, to be able to have these classes for the kids, it's life-changing. You know, we have waiting lists because they're so anxious to have this in-person experience. And we're one of the only essential facilities in the Valley that does in-person classes. You know, people are alone, sometimes in their house for weeks and months with their special needs child, and that is incredibly difficult. It's not just about coming in to the center, it's also about having somebody to call, because a lot of the things that I'm doing now during the COVID times is fielding calls from parents who just want to talk and just want to vent and just need somebody to talk to. So I think what we're doing is really just creating a secondary expanded family, so everyone's part of our family.